Hey everybody, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. Behind me, just like Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. This is another Allis Chalmers HD5G track loader. This one also came to me for the low price of $500. Guys, for 500 bucks, I just can't turn one of these things down. They are worth more in scrap than that. This one, however, is not scrap. It is decidedly better than the one that we did previous on this channel. The fella I just bought this beauty from tells me it was running about 2 years ago, so theoretically getting it running should not be too much of an issue, but he tells me there's bigger problems. The steering clutches are all frozen. That could prove to be quite an issue. So with the steering clutches frozen, basically this machine should go forward and backward, but will not turn left or right. And if you can look straight ahead, pretty much no way that you could get a trailer backed into this thing for it to walk straight up onto a trailer. And of course, behind the machine, more trees and no way to get a trailer into it. So we're gonna have to try to get this thing fired up and then get it spun about 90 degrees so that we can potentially get it loaded up onto the trailer. That is all, of course, provided that this thing even starts, because if the engine doesn't start, that means we've got a loader bucket that is sunk into the ground, and that is gonna add to the complexity of this recovery. So with a little bit of luck and maybe a little bit of ether, hopefully our little 271 Detroit that powers this unit will fire right up. Boys, look at the grease on this engine. Tons of debris packed down in there around the bottom of the engine. Looks like the whole belly pan's just full of stuff. Out of all my machines, I think this one could probably benefit from a good steam cleaning the most. But it's that time of year where we're not gonna break out the steam cleaner. It's gonna probably be wearing this grease until spring. And it is getting colder by the minute out here, but let's go ahead and check some fluids before we get too carried away. Looks like our dipstick's down in here. Oh yeah, she's got oil. And it's also got dirt all over the dipstick now since I just drug it across the track. We're gonna have to wipe that off. This is how you keep your boots oiled properly. Just always wipe dipsticks on them. Keeps the leather very supple, 1540. Don't tell my wife this is how I clean off dipsticks sometimes. So our engine oil is good. Let's have a gander at this radiator. Oh, look at this. It's got some Dodge Superpower on here. What is going on with this thing? Oh, that's interesting. There's no radiator cap. We'll just use this thing. Well, it's not ideal, and there's some dead bugs hiding in there, but there's antifreeze and it's green, so. When I showed up here to buy this thing, the whole machine was actually covered with a tarp, which was good, and he had this bucket over the stack, which has been nice of him. So we shouldn't have any issues with into the engine, hopefully. It's been a while, I think, since she's run. That's probably the most wallered out rain cap I think I've ever seen, too. Yeah, everything is definitely in much better condition on this machine than the other one that we have, so I'm feeling good about this purchase. Hopefully it just comes to freeing up some steering clutches. Well, that one actually moved. We'll see what we can do here. Let's try to get this thing fired up first. The fuel tank on this machine is in slightly better condition than the other HD5 as well. These things take a beating since they're kind of sticking out proud back here. If you're working in the trees or something, it's very easy to back into a tree when you're not paying attention, dent in that tank. And it's seen some abuse over the years too, but nothing like the other one we have. Undercarriage is in pretty good shape. We got a good bit of rail height left. The rail height, if you don't know, is the distance between this flat spot and this guy right here. So that looks about, I don't know, 60% maybe. The sprockets are pretty good. The sprockets still have nice squared off teeth on them. Actually, the sprockets look real good. Looks like they welded some new ones on there. This is all weld here, and that's actually cut in half and re-welded right there. The idlers have also been beefed up by the looks of it. They're nice and squared off. That helps keep the track on the rails. All in all, not bad for 500 bucks, I don't think. Let's break out the jump pack and see what happens. So based upon my experience with the last one, it's going to be much easier if we just go straight to jumping on the starter, which is kind of down in here. Really hard to get the camera on. You can barely fish the jumper pack underneath the boom arm and get it over there on it. But it is possible. All right, I think that this machine was originally wired for two 6-volt batteries, one in each armrest here, but I just hooked 12 volts up to one side. Maybe that'll work enough to get this thing cranking over. If I slide this rod right here, it should engage the starter. Contact. Nothing. All right, that rod runs up here to the operator's platform. It's actually meant to be pushed with your foot, so maybe it just needs a little more jam. Niet. All right, hopefully we got her connected right this time. Contact. There we go. Things are happening. All right, so we should be ready to turn this thing over, but I know that it's not going to start at first because there was no fuel in the tank. The tank was nice and clean, but it was bone dry, so I went ahead and dumped a couple gallons of fuel in it. And now, because the tank was empty, we're going to have to prime the filters. So I have this line right here open to let the fuel bleed out, but it's after the fuel pump, so we're going to have to crank the engine over to get that to bleed out. All right, I'm going to crank it. You guys just holler when you see fuel. Nothing yet. They're starting to get a little bit of fuel. Starting to. Just tighten that back up. Fuel should be pretty well primed up. We're gonna probably have to help it out a little bit with the ether, but hopefully she goes here. Contact. Come on. Kick the starter out. There we go. Yeah. Oh, come on, stay running. Yeah, it's not picking up fuel all the way. I don't know. All right, I rebled the fuel system. We had an air pocket that I didn't get before. So hopefully it'll actually take off this time. Contact. Come on. Yeah, we might need some more. Let me go see if I have any more. Give her another go here. Got some more ether, some more battery. Still not catching fuel. I don't understand. I'm gonna try pressurizing the whole fuel system and force bleeding it with air. Now we're getting plenty of fuel coming out of this fitting. It's not making sense why we're not getting it up to our injectors. I might pull the valve cover off and check it right there on the injector. See if we're getting fuel right there. Seems to be moving freely. All right, so this should be your fuel line coming into the injector. This should be your return line from the injector. I'm gonna crank it over and make sure we got fuel coming out of those. Yep, getting all kind of fuel. Something about this fuel rack doesn't seem right. Like we should be able to shove these in further. I think I'm gonna take the control arm off the side of the rack and run it manually. I think we found our issue. Yep. That is the fuel shutdown lever, and it was stuck in the on position. There we go. Now we're giving full fuel to the injectors. That's what we needed. All right, I'm feeling confident that was our issue here. Hopefully this thing fires right up now. I'm gonna try not to even give it any ether. All right, contact. There we go. Beautiful. It runs. That is great news. Now we just need to get it out of here. So my plan is I'm going to try to walk it back and forth here a few times, and then we'll start trying to work on getting these clutches to break free. Maybe we can get lucky. If we can get one of them free, we can get this thing on the trailer real easy. All right, we'll put it in first gear here. Should be that guy right there. And we'll engage the clutch. Uh-oh. Shouldn't like that. There we go. Oh yeah, these things, tracks haven't turned in a long time. Alright, well, it doesn't look like I'm going to have any luck getting the clutches to steer. Well, to get this thing out of here, here's my plan. I've got a chain hooked on the side of the bucket there, and we're going to improperly use a Yankum rope, so I apologize to those guys in advance. And I've got it connected up to this tree over here, and what I'm hoping is going to happen is I'm going to start to drive forward, everything's going to tighten up, and that'll just bring the front of the machine right around the direction I need it to point down the driveway, and then I can just walk it right up there is my hope. Here goes nothing. Hey, it's working. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, that worked way better than even I expected it to. Here's where my smart plan comes to an end. How do I get this unhooked now? It's under tension still. Yeah, not happening. Oh, and just like that, another track loader saved. Sweetheart. This one runs a heck of a lot better than the other one did. Not nearly as abused or beat up or clapped out. If we get the steering clutches freed up, it might be a decent little machine. There we go. We made her home. Okay, here we are back with the HD5 a few months later. And I want to try to see if we can get these clutches freed up today. So what actually happens in there when the clutches stick is that the friction plates stick to the steel plates, and basically the clutch pack just won't separate. It doesn't have any tension on it that's holding it. It's just kind of stiction or rust or whatever it may be in there. So sometimes you can get lucky and break those clutch packs free by shock loading the clutches. Now you can do that a couple different ways. but you basically just pull the clutches and disengage them, and then because you're going no matter what, you pull those and you'll still keep going, and then you can run it into a tree stump or something hard, or hook a chain to it, which is I believe what we're going to try today, and hook it to an immovable object so that when you get to the end of the chain, it induces a shock load into that drive line and can break those clutches free sometimes, if you're lucky. That's what I was trying to do the day we got this thing running, by stabbing the brakes, because that can do it if they're not stuck very bad. Sometimes you could just stab the brakes really hard while you have the clutches pulled, and in our case all I did was break the brake linkage on that left side. So let's hook the jump pack up, see if this thing fires up, and see what's going to happen. Okay, here we go. Contact. Bad ground. Shocked. Boy, it wants to go. Get a switcher over to 24 volt real quick just to make it spin a little bit faster. I bet it goes. Ready? Contact. Yeah, it either goes or we smoke our connection. Contact. Alright, so the old crawler's been warming up for a little while. It's time to see what we can do about those steering clutches. Now remember, both steering clutches are frozen, unlike the other HD5 we worked on a while back. So I've got two choices when operating this thing. I can go forward or I can go backwards. I cannot steer either direction. You're just on a fixed path. So the old Kobelco here is going to have to provide the steering for us today. And I think that we're also going to use it as the immovable object to attach the chain to. Alright, so we got the HD5 tethered off to the bucket of the Kobelco, and if you'll notice I have all the weight of the Kobelco actually sitting on the bucket, so we're not pulling against the hydraulics really all as much as the ground, or at least the ground is helping quite a bit. I'm not just shock loading that boom. So yeah, let's back up and give her a go here. I'm gonna hold off on this for a second. I don't like this apparatus here. I didn't even pull on it super hard. I just gave her a few tugs, and I don't like this chain. This thing's actually pulling a bit harder than I thought it was gonna be able to. Let me try to find a heavier cable or something to put in between there. Chains or cables, when they snap, can come up and do some radical stuff, and that's why I have the anchor point about even with the hitch point on the machine, because if it snaps, theoretically it goes straight. You know, if you have it on an angle, it can break and go on that angle. Well, guys, that didn't work. That's the extent of my bag of tricks on trying to get these clutches freed up. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to dive into this thing. We're gonna actually have to pull off the fuel tank, the seat, all that assembly, and the top of the clutch covers there, and hopefully we can break the clutch packs free with a pry bar or something without having to actually disconnect and remove the clutches. But if it comes to that, you know, that's the next step. I think we do have a pretty good loader here though. For what I paid, 500 bucks, really can't go wrong. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I think it's worth more in scrap. So we have a good running 271 Detroit. I was really impressed. It actually started without any ether, and it was pretty cold when I started this. The engine seems pretty strong, pushing against the machine here. I mean, it's spinning the track, so nothing's slipping. The engine wasn't bogging down or dying out. I think the engine's pretty good. The hydraulics, they seem to function pretty quickly. I really can't complain too much about them. I mean, the cylinders aren't dumping fluid out on the ground or anything. I think the packing is bypassing internally pretty good, but for what this machine is, we really can't complain about that. If you were going to take this machine and, you know, use it a lot or try to restore it or something, sure, we would take those cylinders down and repack them, reseal them, and all that jazz. But for my personal needs and what we're going to do with this machine, I'm not going to worry about those cylinders. They're going to be just fine for now. If they start leaking real bad, that'll be a different story. So all that being said, I think it's going to be a little bit of time before you guys see this unit again. But when you see it, we're probably going to be steam cleaning it all off so we can actually see what's going on underneath the engine there, because it is just covered in grease and grime and oil. After that's all done, I think we're probably going to pull it into the shop and see what we can't do about those clutches. If we get the clutches freed up, we'll give the whole thing a complete service from end to end and make sure there's nothing else critically wrong with it. I think this machine's going to be ready for action after that. Anyways, guys, I think that's about where this one's going to wrap up. If you like this video, do me a big favor. Hit that thumbs up button down below the video. It doesn't cost you guys a dime. It really helps out the channel. Helps me to keep buying stuff like this and making cool videos for you guys about it. If you guys would like to help support the channel in a little more direct way, head on over to dieselcreek.com, pick yourself up some sweet swag over there. We just got some new heavyweight hoodies over there at the store. I really like these hoodies. I was not a big fan of the old ones, so I decided we're going to get something better. These things fit almost like a Carhartt. They're nice and long. They're definitely a better quality hoodie for the money. So if you guys are interested in these, we have a couple different designs and a bunch of different colors over there. That's dieselcreek.com. Link, as always, is down below. But anyways, that's all I got. So until the next time, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.